The throne room of the Valoran Empire was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known galaxy. It stretched for 3 kilometers in every direction. Crystal pillars rose from the floor like frozen lightning, each one glowing with soft light from conquered worlds. The ceiling showed the stars themselves, a living map of 800 solar systems that now belonged to the Empire. Emperor Dravos, the Eternal, sat on his throne made of black stone. He was tall, even for his species. His skin was dark purple, and he had 4 arms that ended in clawed fingers. His eyes glowed yellow like dying suns. He had ruled the Valoran Empire for 300 years. In that time, he had crushed rebellions, destroyed fleets, and brought entire civilizations to their knees. Today, he would add another species to his collection. The throne room was filled with thousands of beings. Admirals in golden armor stood near the throne. Warlords from distant sectors watched from elevated platforms. Representatives from all 800 conquered species lined the walls, forced to witness another world's fall. And in the center of it all, standing alone on the polished floor, was a single human woman. Her name was Una Park. She was not tall. She was not impressive to look at. She wore a simple navy blue suit with no decorations, no medals, no signs of rank. She carried only a leather bag at her hip. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple style, and her face showed no fear. This confused many of the watchers. They had seen species beg. They had seen warriors tremble. They had seen kings weep when they stood before Emperor Dravos. But this human woman looked like she was waiting for a train. Emperor Dravos rose from his throne. The movement was slow and deliberate. He wanted everyone to see his power, his control. His forearms spread wide, and holographic displays appeared in the air around him. They showed maps, fleet positions, and thousands of red dots moving toward a small yellow star. Earth's sun, humanity, the Emperor said. His voice was deep and cold. It echoed through the massive chamber like thunder in a canyon. You have been given many chances. We offered you a place in our empire. We offered you protection, purpose, meaning. All we asked in return was your service. Una said nothing. She simply watched him with calm eyes. You refused, Dravos continued. Again and again, you refused. Your diplomats spoke of independence. Your leaders talked of freedom. You rejected every offer we made. The holographic displays shifted. Now they showed warships. Thousands of them. The Valoran fleet was massive, built over centuries of conquest. Each ship was armed with weapons that could crack a planet's surface. Each crew was trained to fight without mercy. 12,000 warships now move toward your solar system, Emperor Dravos announced. Your 9 planets will burn. Your colonies will become glass. Your people will learn that there is no freedom in this galaxy. There is only the Empire. The throne room fell completely silent. 800 species held their breath. They knew what came next. They had seen it before. The human would fall to her knees. She would beg for mercy. She would offer anything to save her world. But Una Park did not fall to her knees. Instead, she laughed. It was not a nervous laugh. It was not a polite laugh. It was a real laugh, the kind that comes from deep in the chest. She laughed like someone had told her a very good joke. She laughed like a grandmother watching a child try to pick up something too heavy. The sound echoed through the throne room. Every being present stared at her in shock. Even Emperor Dravos stopped speaking, his yellow eyes narrowing with confusion and anger. You dare to laugh? He growled. I have just declared the death of your species, and you laugh. Una controlled herself. She wiped a tear from her eye and took a deep breath. I am sorry, she said, though she did not sound sorry at all. It is just. We have been waiting for this moment for a very long time. She reached into her leather bag. Immediately, 100 weapons pointed at her. Guards moved forward, but Una simply pulled out a folded piece of paper and held it up for everyone to see. Do you know what this is? She asked. Emperor Dravos stared at it. Paper, he said with disgust. Your species still uses physical media. How primitive. Call it a newspaper. Una said. She unfolded it slowly, letting the sound fill the silent room. We print them every morning. Old habit. Some of us like the feeling of paper. She held up the newspaper so the Emperor could see the front page. The headline was written in large black letters. It read, Valoran Empire expected to declare war today. Defense Grid Alpha activated, public. Advised to expect minimal disruptions. The date on the newspaper was today's date. We knew, Una said simply. We have known for 6 months. Your secret war councils, your encrypted communications, your fleet movements. We have watched everything. Admiral Kellex, the greatest military mind in the Empire, stepped forward. His face showed disbelief. That is impossible, he said. Our quantum encryption cannot be broken. No species in the galaxy has the technology to read our messages. Una turned to look at him. Her smile was small but confident. No species in the known galaxy, she corrected. That is the problem with your empire, Admiral. You found humanity 200 years ago. You watched us. You studied us. You decided we were primitive because we had not expanded beyond our solar system. She paused and looked around the room at all the watching faces. But you never asked the important question, she continued. You never asked why we had not expanded. You assumed it was because we could not. She folded the newspaper and put it back in her bag. You were wrong. The throne room erupted in confused noise. Admirals shouted questions. Warlords demanded explanations. The representatives of conquered species whispered to each other, something they had not felt in centuries. Hope Emperor Dravos raised one of his 4 hands, and silence returned. His yellow eyes burned as he stared at the human woman. Explain yourself, he commanded. What game are you playing? Una Park looked up at the most powerful being in the known galaxy. She showed no fear. She showed no worry. She looked at him the way a teacher looks at a student who has made a mistake. No game, Your Majesty, she said. Just a history lesson. One that is long overdue. The silence in the throne room was heavy. Thousands of beings watched the small human woman standing alone on the polished floor. Emperor Dravos sat back on his throne, his 4 arms resting on the armrests. His yellow eyes had not moved from Una Park. A history lesson, he repeated slowly. You stand in the heart of the greatest empire the galaxy has ever seen. 12,000 warships are flying toward your world right now? And you want to give me a history lesson? Yes, Una said. Her voice was calm and clear, because you have made a decision based on wrong information. A wise ruler should want to know the truth before he acts. Admiral Kellex stepped forward again. He was old for his species, with gray scales covering his face. He had commanded fleets for over a century. He had never lost a battle. Your Majesty, this is clearly a trick. The humans are trying to delay us. We should proceed with the attack. Perhaps, Emperor Dravos said. He leaned forward on his throne. But I am curious. Let the humans speak. It will change nothing, but I wish to hear what lies she has prepared. Una nodded. She began to walk slowly across the throne room floor. Her footsteps echoed in the massive space. Every eye followed her. 2,000 years ago, she began, humanity discovered how to travel faster than light. We built our first ships and left our solar system. In 100 years, we mapped half the galaxy. A wave of disbelief moved through the crowd. Whispers spread among the representatives of conquered species. Admiral Kellex shook his head. Possible, he said. 2,000 years ago, humans were still fighting with primitive weapons on their homeworld. Our records show this clearly. Your records show what we wanted you to see, Una replied. She stopped walking and turned to face the Admiral. We are very good at hiding things, she continued her story. In those early centuries, we built ships that could destroy planets. We created weapons that could make stars explode. We developed technology that your scientists cannot even imagine. And then, something happened. Emperor Dravos raised one eyebrow. What happened? We looked at ourselves, Una said. We looked at what we were building, what we were becoming, and we became afraid. This caused even more confusion. The Valoran warriors exchanged glances. Fear was weakness to them. Why would any species admit to being afraid? You must understand, Una continued. Humans have a complicated history. We spent thousands of years fighting each other. We invented new ways to kill faster than we invented new ways to heal. When we reached the stars, we brought that violence with us. She paused and looked down at the floor for a moment. We saw the future clearly. Different human groups would claim different planets. They would build weapons. They would fight wars across the galaxy. Billions would die. Maybe trillions. We would become the greatest destroyers the universe had ever seen. So what did you do? Emperor Dravos asked. Despite himself, he was interested. We made a choice, Una said. The leaders of all human nations came together. They looked at all our technology, all our weapons, all our ships, and they decided to hide it all. Hide it. Admiral Kellex laughed. You cannot hide an entire civilization. You can if you are clever enough, Una said. We built the Veil. It is a system of satellites, projectors, and signal blockers that surrounds our entire solar system. From the outside, Earth looks like a primitive world. A few billion humans living on one planet, just beginning to explore space. She smiled slightly. That is what you have been seeing for 200 years. A mask, a disguise, a lie. Far away on Earth, the real story was unfolding. 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Korea, Commander Taijun Wang sat in the True Defense Command Center. The room was filled with screens showing data from across the solar system. The ambassador has reached the main reveal, Lieutenant Hannah Lim reported. She was young but brilliant, one of the best tactical officers in the service. The Emperor looks confused. Taijin nodded. He was in his 50s, with gray hair cut short and lines on his face from years of responsibility. Good, confused is better than angry. For now, around them, hundreds of operators worked at their stations. They monitored the Valoran fleet still moving toward Earth. They also monitored something else. Thousands of human ships hidden throughout the solar system, waiting for orders. Sir, another officer called out. Fleet Admiral Borasung reports all vessels are in position. We can activate the veil drop on your command. Taijin looked at the main screen. It showed the Valoran fleet, 12,000 warships, each one massive and deadly. According to their information, it was the largest military force ever assembled in the history of the galaxy. Not yet, Taijin said. Let the ambassador finish her speech. The more they understand before they see the truth, the better. Back in the throne room, Una was still speaking. We spent 2,000 years in hiding, she said. 2,000 years of peace. We developed technology not for war, but for living. We built homes on every planet in our system. We created stations larger than your biggest ships. We grew and learned and changed. She looked directly at Emperor Dravos. When your empire found us 2 centuries ago, we decided to continue the disguise. We watched you. We studied you. We learned about the galaxy you had built, the conquered worlds, the slavery, the fear. We brought order, Emperor Dravos said coldly. We brought peace. You brought obedience, Una corrected. That is not the same thing. But we did not judge you. Every species must find its own path. We simply watched and waited. Waited for what? The Emperor demanded. For this moment, Una said. We knew it would come eventually. You would decide that Earth was worth taking. You would send your fleets. You would declare war. She spread her hands. And here we are. Admiral Kellex stepped forward again, his patience gone. Your Majesty, this is nonsense. Even if some of what she says is true, it does not matter. Our fleet is already moving. Whatever tricks the humans have, they cannot stop 12,000 warships. Una turned to look at the Admiral. There was something in her eyes that made him stop. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was something worse. It was pity. Admiral, she said softly, I have told you that we watched your empire for 200 years. Did you think we did not prepare? She reached into her bag again. This time, she pulled out a small device no bigger than her palm. It had a single button on top. "This is a communicator," she said. "It connects me directly to Earth's Defense Command. With one press of this button, I can give an order that will change everything." Emperor Dravos leaned forward. "What order?" Una looked at the button, then at the Emperor, then at all the thousands of beings watching her. "The order to stop hiding," she said. "The order to show you what humanity really is." Her finger moved toward the button. "Would you like to see?" Una's finger hovered over the button. The throne room was completely still. Every being in the massive chamber watched the small human woman with the tiny device in her hand. Emperor. Dravos raised one of his forearms. "Wait," he commanded. His voice echoed through the room. "Before you press that button, answer me one question." Una lowered her hand slightly. "Ask if what you say is true. If humanity is so powerful, why hide it all? Why pretend to be weak for 2,000 years? It was a good question. Una could see it on the faces of everyone watching. They did not understand. Power was meant to be used. Strength was meant to be shown. Every species in the galaxy followed this rule, because we were afraid, Una said simply. "You said this before," Dravos replied. "Afraid of what?" "Surely not afraid of us." "No," Una agreed. "Not afraid of you. Afraid of ourselves." She put the device back in her bag for a moment and walked closer to the throne. Guards moved to stop her, but the Emperor waved them back. "Humans are good at many things," Una continued. "We are creative. We are stubborn. We adapt quickly. But we are also violent. War comes easily to us. We have fought each other for our entire history. When we reached the stars and built weapons that could destroy worlds, we looked at our own nature and became terrified." She stopped a few meters from the throne and looked up at the Emperor. "We knew that if we went out into the galaxy with all that power, we would become monsters. We would conquer and destroy, just like your empire does now. Maybe worse. So we chose to stop. We chose to hide. We chose to spend 2,000 years learning to be better." Emperor Dravos stared at her for a long moment. "And did it work? Are you better now?" Una smiled slightly. "I am standing here talking to you instead of watching my fleet destroy yours. So yes, I think it worked." On Earth, Commander Taijin Huang watched the conversation through hidden cameras. He turned to Lieutenant Hannah Lim. "She is handling this well," he said. Hannah nodded. "Ambassador Park was chosen for this mission because she is patient. Anyone else might have already given the order." Taijin looked at the screens showing the Valoran fleet. They were still moving toward Earth. In 6 hours, they would reach the outer edge of the solar system. In 12 hours, they would be in weapons range. "Sir," an operator called out, "we are receiving a signal." From the Vale Project headquarters, Dr. Yunji. "Kang is asking if we want to begin the reveal sequence." Taijin considered this. Dr. Kang had spent her entire life working on the Vale. She had improved it, maintained it, and prepared for this day. She was probably very eager to finally show the galaxy what humanity had built. "Tell her to stand by," Taijin said. "The ambassador will give the signal when she is ready." In the throne room, Emperor Dravos had been silent for a full minute. The thousands of beings watching began to whisper among themselves. This was not how these meetings usually went. Usually the Emperor was in complete control. Usually the representatives of other species trembled before him, but this human woman showed no fear. She stood calmly before the most powerful being in the galaxy and spoke of hiding an entire civilization for 2,000 years. Either she was completely insane or she was telling the truth. Admiral Kellix could not stand the uncertainty any longer. He stepped forward and pointed at Una. "This is a waste of time," he declared. "Your Majesty, we have heard enough. Let me give the order to attack. If the humans have truly been hiding something, we will discover it when we reach their world. And if they have not, we will crush them as planned." Emperor Dravos held up his hand. "No, I want to see." He looked at Una. "Show me what you have hidden. Press your button. Let us all see the truth." Una reached into her bag and pulled out the communicator again. She looked at it for a moment, then looked at all the faces watching her. The Valoran admirals and warlords. The representatives of 800 conquered species. All of them waiting to see what would happen. "Very well," she said. She pressed the button. Nothing seemed to happen at first. The throne room was silent. Admiral Kellex began to laugh. "You see," he said. It was all he stopped. Every holographic display in the room had started to flicker. New data was flooding in from across the galaxy. Warning signals appeared on every screen. What is happening? Emperor Dravos demanded. In the human solar system, something wonderful and terrible was taking place. The Veil, the massive system of satellites and projectors that had hidden humanity for 2,000 years, was shutting down. Dr. Yunji Kong stood in the control room of the Veil project, watching the process on 100 screens. Her assistant, Minho Bei, stood beside her. "Powered down at 40%, Minho reported. "Projectors are going offline in sequence." Yunji watched the numbers climb. She had worked on this technology for 30 years. Her mother had worked on it before her, and her grandmother before that. Generations of scientists had dedicated their lives to keeping humanity hidden. Now, in a matter of minutes, all of that work would end. "This is the right choice," she said, more to herself than to Minho. It was always going to happen eventually. 60%, Minho said. "The outer layer is completely down. They can see the stations around Neptune now." In the throne room, the displays were showing impossible things. Where the Valoran sensors had always seen empty space beyond Neptune, there were now structures. Massive stations, shipyards, military bases. 80%, Minho reported back on Earth. "Jupiter ring is visible." More structures appeared on the displays. A ring of connected stations circled the giant planet like a crown. Each station was the size of a small moon. Together, they held a population of 2 billion humans. Admiral Kellex stared at the screens with wide eyes. "This cannot be real." 95%, Minho said. "Full reveal in 10 seconds." The final layer of the veil shut down. And suddenly, the entire human solar system was visible. The throne room erupted in chaos. Admirals shouted. Warlords screamed. The representatives of conquered species cried out in shock, because what they were seeing was impossible. 9 planets surrounded by hundreds of artificial structures. Rings around Jupiter and Saturn, filled with habitats. The asteroid belt transformed into a manufacturing network larger than most civilizations had ever built. And ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships, ranging from small cruisers to massive vessels that made the Valoran fleet look like toys. Emperor Dravos stood from his throne. His yellow eyes were fixed on one particular structure, something orbiting beyond Neptune. It was so large that the sensors could not measure it properly. "What is that?" he whispered. YUNA turned to look at the display. "We call it the Shepherd. It is designed to move our entire planet to a new solar system if our sun ever dies. We built it 800 years ago. We have never needed to use it." The Emperor looked from the display to the human woman. "You were never primitive," he said slowly. "You were never weak. Everything we believed about humanity was wrong." Yuna nodded. "And now," Emperor Dravos said, "your 40,000 ships are going to destroy my 12,000. "That depends," Yuna said, "on what happens next." The chaos in the throne room continued for several minutes. Admirals shouted orders into communicators. Warlords demanded explanations. The representatives of conquered species watched with a mixture of fear and something else. Something that looked like hope. Emperor Dravos remained standing before his throne. His 4 hands were clenched into fists. His yellow eyes moved from screen to screen, taking in the impossible images of humanity's true civilization. 40,000 ships, Admiral Kellex said. His voice was hollow. "Our sensors are counting over 40,000 military vessels, and the smallest of them appears to be larger than our standard cruisers." "That is correct," Yuna said calmly. "We have been building our fleet for a very long time. We had no enemies to fight, so we took our time. We made sure every ship was perfect." The Admiral turned to face her. Fear had replaced the anger in his eyes. Why? If you wanted peace, why build such a fleet? Because peace is not the same as weakness, Yuna replied. We chose not to fight. That does not mean we cannot fight. We simply prefer to have a choice. On Earth, the mood in Defense Command had changed. The operators who had been tense and silent were now speaking excitedly. Screens showed Valoran ships slowing down, changing course. Trying to figure out what to do, Commander Taijin Wang watched the main display. The human fleet was holding position around the solar system. 40,000 ships formed a sphere of protection around Earth and its sister worlds. Not one of them had moved to attack. The Valoran fleet has stopped advancing, Lieutenant Hannah Lim reported. They are holding at the edge of sensor range. Smart, Taijin said. They finally understand. They are outmatched. Hannah studied the data on her screen. Our ships could reach them in 3 minutes. We could destroy their entire fleet before they could fire a single shot. Yes, we could, Taijin agreed. He did not give that order. Instead, he watched the video feed from the Valoran throne room. Ambassador Park was speaking again. In the throne room, Yuna had walked to one of the holographic displays. She touched the controls and brought up a detailed image of a human warship. This is the Horizon-class battleship, she said. It is our most common military vessel. We have 12,000 of them. The ship on the display was beautiful in a terrible way. It was sleek and powerful, with weapons covering every surface. Even from the image, the Valoran admirals could see that it was more advanced than anything they had ever built. A single Horizon-class ship carries weapons that can destroy a planet, Yuna continued. Its shields can survive a direct hit from a star. Its engines can cross the galaxy in weeks. She changed the display to show another ship, much larger than the first. This is the Guardian-class carrier. We have 3,000 of them. Each one carries 500 smaller attack ships. Each one has enough firepower to fight your entire fleet alone. Admiral Kellex made a sound like a wounded animal. His entire life had been spent building the Valoran military into the most powerful force in the galaxy. In one moment, he had learned that it was nothing. And this, Yuna said, changing the display one more time, is the Shepherd. No, the structure that appeared was so large that it barely fit on the screen. It was not just a ship. It was a mobile world. Mountains rose from its surface. Oceans filled massive internal chambers. Cities covered its exterior like decorations. 20 billion humans live on the Shepherd, Yuna said. It was built to save our species if Earth was ever in danger. It can travel between galaxies. It can exist for millions of years without support. She turned to face Emperor Dravos. This is what humanity has been hiding. Not because we wanted to deceive you, but because we were not ready. We needed time to change. To become something better than conquerors. Emperor Dravos slowly sat back on his throne. The weight of what he was seeing pressed down on him. His entire empire, 800 years of conquest, suddenly seemed very small. Your fleet surrounds mine, he said quietly. Your weapons are superior. Your technology is beyond anything we have ever imagined. He looked at Yuna. Why are you still talking? Why have you not already destroyed us? Because that is not why we revealed ourselves, Yuna said. We did not drop the veil to threaten you. We dropped it to show you the truth. The truth, Dravos repeated. Yes, the truth that there are beings in this galaxy more powerful than the Valoran Empire. Beings who could conquer you easily, but beings who choose not to. Back on Earth, Dr. Yoon Ji Kong was watching the conversation from the Veil Project headquarters. The screens around her showed data from sensors across the solar system. The Valoran fleet had completely stopped now. Some ships were even starting to turn around. They are scared, Minho Bay said. I would be too, Yunji shook her head. Fear is not what we want. Ambassador Park needs to give them something else. Something better than fear. In the throne room, the representatives of conquered species had begun to move closer. They had been silent throughout the exchange, too afraid to speak. But now some of them were whispering, pointing at the displays, looking at each other with strange expressions. One of them, a small being with blue skin and large eyes, stepped forward. He was the representative of the Malaray, a species that had been conquered by the Valoran Empire 500 years ago. His people had been slaves ever since, Humani said. His voice was shaking. Is this real? Are you truly as powerful as you appear? Yuna looked at him with gentle eyes. Yes, it is real. Then why? ... The Mallory representative stopped. He seemed afraid to ask his question. But finally, he found the courage. Why did you not help us? Why did you hide while we suffered? You could have stopped the Empire at any time. The question hung in the air. It was a fair question. A painful question. Yuna had known someone would ask it eventually. You're right, she said. We could have stopped the Empire. We could have freed your people and all the others centuries ago. She paused and took a deep breath. But we were not ready. We were still learning. Still changing? If we had revealed ourselves too soon, we would have become just another empire. We would have replaced Valoran rule with human rule. That was not good enough. She looked around the room at all the conquered species watching her. We wanted to offer something better. Not conquest. Not domination. Not a new master replacing the old one. We wanted to wait until we could offer you true freedom. And now? The Mallory representative asked. Are you ready now? Yuna smiled slightly. Now, she said, we have a choice to make. All of us. The Valoran Empire. The conquered species. And humanity. She turned back to Emperor Dravos. The question is, what kind of galaxy do we want to build? The throne room had become very quiet. The chaos from before had faded. Now everyone simply watched and listened. The fate of the galaxy would be decided in the next few minutes. Emperor Dravos sat on his throne, his four hands resting on the armrests. His yellow eyes were fixed on Yuna Park. Around him, his admirals and warlords waited for his command. Behind them, the representatives of 800 conquered species held their breath. What kind of galaxy? Dravos repeated slowly. You speak as if we have options. As if my 12,000 ships are not surrounded by your 40,000. As if you could not destroy everything I have built in a single day. We could, Yuna agreed. But we will not. Why? The Emperor leaned forward. Your species spent 2,000 years hiding. Now you reveal yourselves. You show us power beyond imagination. And you expect me to believe you will not use it? Yuna walked toward the throne. Guards moved to stop her, but she held up her hand. May I approach? I give you my word that I mean no harm. Emperor Dravos studied her for a moment. Then he waved the guards aside. Yuna walked up the steps until she stood directly in front of the throne. She was so close that she could see the patterns in the Emperor's skin, the lines around his yellow eyes. 2,000 years ago, she said quietly, humanity made a choice. We chose to hide. We chose to change. We chose to become something better than we were. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small object. It was a piece of stone, rough and ancient.
Ow.
This is from Earth, she said. It is very old. It comes from a place where humans once fought a terrible war. Millions died. Cities were destroyed. We kept this stone to remind ourselves of what we used to be. She held it out toward the Emperor. Today, you have a choice. The same choice we made 2,000 years ago. You can fight. Your fleet will be destroyed. Your empire will fall. Your people will suffer. Or ... she paused. Or you can change. Like we did. Like any species can, if they are brave enough. On Earth, Commander Taijin Huang watched the conversation with intense focus. Lieutenant Hannah Lim stood beside him, her hands clasped tightly together. She is offering him a way out, Hannah whispered. Do you think he will take it? Taijin shook his head. I do not know. The Valoran have ruled through fear and violence for 800 years. Changing that is not easy. Around them, the operators in Defense Command were silent. Every screen showed the same thing. 2 fleets facing each other across the void of space. Thousands of weapons ready to fire. Millions of lives hanging in the balance. Sir, an operator said quietly, Fleet Admiral Borasung is requesting orders. What should she tell the fleet? Taijin looked at the main screen, where the tiny figure of Ambassador Park stood before the alien emperor. Tell her to hold position, he said. The ambassador is not finished yet. In the throne room, Emperor Dravos stared at the stone in Yuna's hand. It was such a small thing. A piece of rock from a distant planet, but something about it made him pause. He thought about his empire. 800 years of conquest. 800 years of fear. He had always told himself it was necessary. That order required strength. That peace required control. But looking at this human woman, standing before him without fear, offering him a choice instead of demanding surrender, he wondered if there might be another way. "What exactly are you offering?" he asked. "Partnership," Yuna said. "True partnership. Not conquest in a different form. Not humanity telling the galaxy what to do. We want to work together. All species. Building something new in my empire?" Dravos asked. "My power? My throne. That is for you to decide. We will not take anything from you by force. But we hope you will choose to share what you have built. To use your experience and knowledge to help others instead of controlling them." Admiral Kellic stepped forward. His face was twisted with anger and fear. "Your Majesty, you cannot seriously consider this. The Valoran Empire has stood for 800 years. We are the masters of the galaxy. We do not surrender to anyone." Emperor Dravos held up one hand. "Be silent, Kellic." The Admiral stopped, shocked. No one spoke to Admiral Kellic that way. But the Emperor was not looking at him. He was still looking at Yuna Park and the small stone in her hand. "If I refuse," Dravos said, "what happens?" "Your fleet will be allowed to leave peacefully," Yuna replied. "We will not attack you. But we will no longer hide. We will reveal ourselves to the entire galaxy. Every conquered species will know that there is power in the universe that does not serve the Valoran Empire. They will have hope. And eventually, your empire will change anyway. With or without you." Behind the throne, the representatives of conquered species listened to every word. The small Mallory representative had tears in his large eyes. Others were holding hands, embracing, unable to believe what they were hearing. Emperor Dravos was silent for a very long time. Minutes passed. No one moved. No one spoke. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Finally, the Emperor rose from his throne. He was tall, powerful, intimidating. He had destroyed worlds. He had crushed rebellions. He had ruled with absolute power for 300 years. He reached out with one of his 4 hands and took the stone from Yuna. "It is heavy," he said, looking at it, "for something so small." "It carries a lot of memories," Yuna replied. Dravos looked from the stone to the human woman. Then, slowly, he did something that no Valoran emperor had ever done. He extended his hand to her. "Partnership," he said. The word seemed strange in his mouth. "I do not know if I can change everything about my empire. It has been built on conquest for centuries. But I am willing to try," Yuna smiled. She took his hand, her small human fingers wrapped around his large clawed ones. "That is all we ask," she said. "A willingness to try." 50 years later, the galaxy was a different place. The Unified Council met in a great station orbiting the Valoran homeworld. Representatives from over 1,000 species gathered to discuss trade, exploration, and the future. Chairwoman Sujin Cha, of the human delegation, called the session to order. She was young, barely 40, but she had been chosen for her wisdom and patience. Beside her sat Elder Dravos, the former emperor, now a respected advisor who had helped guide his people toward a new way of life. Outside the council chamber, in a large observation area, children from dozens of species played together. Valoran children chased human children around artificial trees. Mallory children laughed and clapped as they watched ships pass by the windows. On a bench near the window, an old woman sat reading a newspaper. Yuna Park was nearly 90 now, her hair white, her face lined with age. But her eyes were still sharp and clear. The headline on her newspaper read, "Council approves largest exploration mission in history, 500 ships, 2 map unknown regions." She smiled and folded the paper. The galaxy was still not perfect. There were still problems, disagreements, conflicts, but there were no more wars. No more conquests. No more slaves. She watched the children play, watched the ships pass by, and thought about the choice that humanity had made so long ago. The choice to hide. The choice to change. The choice to offer something better than power. It had taken 2,000 years, but it had been worth the wait.